nice up here.
Okay, Mark meets Patrick Collister. Hi Patrick.
Hello Mark.
Can you give us a very quick summary of your entire career to date?
I was born, I live, I shall die. You know. I started in advertising by accident at Ogilvy, Benson and Mather, and went back there, I don't know, 15 years later as creative director, by which time Benson had gone. Often wonder what they did to the poor sod.
What year was this that you entered the industry?
Yeah, such a long time ago. It was 1977. Yeah. Do you know, I was talking to a young creative director the other day at a creative social event, and I don't know, he said something. He's a creative director. You know, this is a guy with large numbers of engines banging and scraping to him every day. I said, hang on a minute, you know, when were you born? And he was born the day I started in advertising. I think, oh my God.
Makes you feel good.
It's not. I mean, you wait, Mark. But inside, I'm 37. So every time I look in the mirror, which I try not to do very often, I get a real shock. I think, who is this white-haired old git? Because it's certainly not the bloke inside. But anyway, it was a long time ago.
Okay, so after Ogilvy?
Where to go? I went to a company, RIP now, called Wasey Campbell Ewald. It was then subject to a reverse takeover by Lowe's, and became Low Hats Bing. I left there and I went to an agency called BMP, which I think was probably the best advertising agency in the history of ever. I don't want to come across as being in any way biased or anything, but actually everything about BMP was fantastic. You know, there was a real intellectual muscle to the agency, as well as an extremely distinctive philosophical offering. You know, most agencies differentiate themselves with black box bollocks. Do you know what I mean? You know, we're the only agency that can. BNP more or less invented planning. In fact, they did invent account planning, and that's what they offered. Whoa!
That's right, we're good.
No, we're a nice little camera move. BNP. I left BNP to go to Y&R because I worked with a guy called John Webster at BNP, who's a creative genius, and I didn't know, as a result of that, if I was any good. The work we did was winning awards, but was I any part of it? You know, So I went to Y&R and discovered, yeah, I was okay. I wasn't a genius, but I was okay. And then I went back to BNP, and then I went and bought a share of an agency to become a capitalist pig dog and make oodles of money, and that happened when the big recession of 1990-91 happened. So I kind of lost my shirt, really. And then went to Ogilvy as executive creative director, and I was there through most of the 90s until 2000. Then tunnelled below the line because of digital. Then got fired, you know, which was a magnificent experience.
Who fired you?
A guy called Andrew Harris. I saw him about a year ago. He came up to me and started chatting. It was one of those moments I wasn't entirely sure, you know, whether to go against my nature and actually punch him on the nose or...
Still can't bear grudges all of that time, though.
No, I mean, I didn't. I mean, I ended up chatting to him. It was a long time ago.
After that?
And then I started my own company, or companies. You know, I'm a conglomerate. Yay! I have a training company called Creative Matters. I have a website and a web-based business, which it's a database called The Big One. It's like the Gun Report, but actually it's based on more evidence. Donald does everything in spreadsheets. I have an online database which doesn't lie, which throws up some extraordinary results. So I log advertising awards, marketing awards around the world, and then in January every year I take a look at what those results look like. It's kind of interesting because, without meaning to be, I'm now a competitor to you. I get agency bosses ringing me up asking who the top creatives are, you know, which I can do.
You've worked with many of them. You've been friends with many of them over the years, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose. But I mean, the thing about the big one is I've now been collecting data about creative people for 9 years, So over the last 9 years, I can tell you who the most consistent writers, art directors are, in which medium, you know. It's still a bit traditional, I have to say. The interesting thing, well, as the nature of our business changes, it is quite difficult to track creeks, as I call them, creative geeks, who are new to our business, but really important to it, actually. And really an exciting addition, I think, to the way advertising works and is created.
And then through the noughties, where did you work?
Me? Oh no, I was at EHS Brand till 2004, and then I worked for me, Creative Matters, the big one, and Directory magazine, which I started in 2007. And then when no one's looking, I actually still do it. I do consultancy stuff, and I occasionally do ads and direct mail packs and direct mail shots. I love direct mail, by the way.
If you could turn back time in your career, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't have been such an arse in my 20s and early 30s. I made a real mess of my private life, and so I turned all of this kind of frustrated, nervous energy into my career, which meant that I really got up a lot of people's noses, and I was kind of insanely ambitious. And at a time when I should really have been concentrating on just doing great work, I kind of concentrated on getting to the top of the career ladder. And in fact, you know, there were loads of people there ready and waiting to kick me off. Quite rightly, I must have been such a pillock.
Was that just the confidence of the industry back, like, years ago? Or?
Well, I mean, you know, I was telling you about this young creative director, and what he asked me was, he said, "Tell me, is it true? Was it really better in the old days?" And of course, I didn't want to sound like an old fire in my time, but the truth is, it was better. And the reason it was better is because, first of all, it was valued more, you know, because it was the age of creativity. Advertising agencies and creative people within them could build factories. I mean, they really could. If I had a creative idea, I'll give you an example. It wasn't my idea. I'd like to claim credit for it, but you know, when I had when I was a creative partner in Burkitt Weinreich Bryan, I owned 17-18% of that. One of our big clients was Bailey's, and what had happened to the growth of Bailey's? It had plateaued out, and it was just flatlining. It was doing okay. But then a creative person had the idea of, well, why don't we market Bailey's with ice in it? Now that was an incredible idea, and what it did is it turned Bailey's into just a global brand. It was such a brilliant idea, and that's what creative people could do. J. Walter Thompson invented brands out of thin air. You know, the story is that McDougall's went to them in 1968 saying, "We've got quite a lot of flour, any idea?" And out of that came Mr. Kipling cakes, you know, and Roundtree's went to them saying, "I don't know, got any ideas for new products? We seem to be a bit stuck," and they created After 8 Minutes. So agencies, creativity, ideas, created businesses, gave them enormous impetus and energy. And then I think all of that went with the digital age, and now we're no longer in the creative age. And what you see in advertising is no longer the value that clients placed on us. And what that means is that actually the way we charge our clients, margins have shrunk. Most agencies, their margins are narrower than that of the corner shop selling you your newspaper in the morning. You know, it really is breakneck industry to be in at the moment. And so with smaller margins, then there's rapid turnover. So you have to turn the work over quickly. So as a young creative guy, I was given 2 weeks for an ad, a month for a TV commercial. You know, now you're lucky if you get 2 days. And that's the other thing, you know, creative people aren't valued either. You know, the really important thing is when you see a creative person doing this, they're doing what they're paid to do, which is to think. They're waiting for stuff to happen. Of course, the money men absolutely bloody hate that. They like to see, you know, people bent over, and so there's less time. And with that, it means creative people earn less money.
Who's the best creative you've ever worked with?
John Webster.
Hands down, John Webster.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, the best. I'm not saying.
Did you know at the time of working with him that he was a different level?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, he was already the most famous, celebrated creative person in London. Him and David Abbott. But you know, David Abbott wrote press ads. What John Webster did is he created properties that went straight into the national psyche. 6 of his campaigns are still running, even though he's been dead for 2 years. I mean, most advertising campaigns run for a year and a half and then die. But he created these properties that still exist. Gary Lineker for Walkers, for starters. John Smith's No Nonsense. You know, he was just astonishing. Not necessarily one of the finest human beings on this planet, but definitely really fascinating.
What's your favourite advertising campaign of all time?
I think you put me on the spot, but probably because it changed. It signalled massive change. It was BMWFilms.com. Everything about it was utterly, totally different. It wasn't written by copywriters. It was created by an agency who understood the value of entertainment. It was a response campaign. You know, you could say, is it direct marketing? Is it sales, promotion? Is it above-the-line advertising? The answer to all of those questions is yes. That was new. Everything it did, I think, liberated, or could have liberated advertising. Unfortunately, it didn't. What it did was create new competitors for agencies who, even to this day, they still don't realise are eating their lunch.
What's been your favourite account to work on in your career?
What did I really, really like working? I really loved working on Warburton's bread. I loved it. And so when Jonathan Warburton fired us at Ogilvy, because my partner at the time had been a prat, I was really upset. I went all the way up to Bolton to beg him not to go through with it, but of course he had to.
And what's been the most embarrassing situation to happen to you?
Loads. I was presenting to Kraft once, a campaign, and fundamental to it was a piece of music which we'd used in Mood film early on that they loved, out of which had come. Anyway, it was Walking on Sunshine, if you remember it.
Yeah.
They absolutely adored it. Anyway, I went up there, and this was the pre-production meeting, and the chief executive CEO was a really tough Glaswegian called Ronnie Bell, and he said, "Well, about the music," and I said, "Well, unfortunately, we can't buy the music rights, but what we can do is we can brief a composer, and we'll get something that's got scape, spirit, and all the rest of it." "We can't buy the music. Why is that? Why is that?" And I said, "Well, unfortunately, another advertiser has pipped us to it. They've bought the music, and they've bought the music rights because they're going to use it across everything. You know, they're going to use it in their aeroplanes, on the telephone. It's a travel company." He said, "Which travel company is it, by any chance?" I said, "It's First Choice Holidays." There was a pause. He looked at me and said, "Isn't that one of your clients?" I said, "Well, yes, Ronnie, it is." He said, "You sold my fucking music to another of your clients. I cannot bloody believe this." And anyway, he punched the wall and left the room and came back later slightly calmer. But that was a moment.
And at what point in your career is it, I guess, a real moment where it's been so surreal that you thought, "Wow, this is crazy. This is what I've been pushing myself for"?
Well, I don't know. But there are two different questions. Surreal moments. I'll give you a surreal moment. One of our clients at Ogilvy was Severn Trent, the water company, and we created some TV ads with Graham Fink. And the idea was that local schools were briefed to write the commercials, and then they would come and we'd shoot them together. And it was part of their education. It was just a charming, sweet idea. Anyway, one of the schools wrote this thing where they all dressed up as prawns, and they sang a song. I can't remember quite what happened, but anyway, we needed a swimming pool. So Graham and his team found a swimming pool somewhere outside Northampton, and it was owned by the council of a particular town, but not mention it by name. And it had gone into disrepair, fallen into disrepair. It was there were weeds growing. It was just a pit. But anyway, you know, in those days, well, there still is actually quite a lot of money in TV production, so we rented it and we repaired it, and we filled it with water and we shot it, and then they said, now you have to return the swimming pool to its original state. We said, but really? I mean, what we've done is rescued and repaired the swimming pool so it could become an amenity. No, no, no. So we had to empty it of water, crack it, break it, destroy it. And that was when I thought, this is insane.
Yeah. In terms of awards, what's been the most satisfying award for you that you've won?
Well, I'll tell you the honest truth, I never won a yellow pencil, which has really driven me crazy, actually. I got nominated for a silver a couple of times, but never got a pencil. I like to think that I did help other people. Well, I got a Cannes Gold that was quite nice. I mean, I wasn't there at the time. I didn't know I'd won it until about 3 weeks afterwards, when somebody who'd been at Cannes said, "Oh, you know, did you know you won?" No. The production company had picked up the lion, but forgotten to tell me.
I'd also forget to tell you as well. Keep it for myself. Who inspires you creatively?
Who?
Yeah.
Sir Ken Robinson. I think he's an incredibly important thinker. I mean, one of the things that he talks about is something that I've tried to think about, but he articulates it brilliantly. We have, as human beings, we have 7 different learning capabilities, and actually in our schools we only teach 2. You know, one of which is kind of linguistic logic, and then the other is mathematics. But I mean, you know, Wayne Rooney, for example, has spatial athletic skills to an nth degree, but we don't teach those. We don't actually help. And so one of his mantras is that actually there are now 7 billion people on this planet. We need ideas desperately in order to be able to survive as a species. It's basically that simple. And yet, what we're doing, certainly in the first world, is we're teaching all of our children all of the techniques that are going to prevent them from having the kind of ideas that we need desperately. And I find it really, really sad here in the UK. My children are both sitting state exams at the moment. My son's doing GCSEs and my daughter's doing A-levels. You know, the really interesting thing is with GCSE, my son's doing history as one of them. I love history. I'm really into history. He's talking about the Cold War. The Cold War is so fascinating. I was told by his teacher not to be filling his head with all of these stories about the Cold War and some of the things that happened, because they aren't on the syllabus. In other words, it isn't that they wouldn't help him enhance his grade. They would penalise him. His extra additional knowledge, his extra perspective on it would be... and you think, that is insane, that is crazy. And I get really worried that so many people coming out of universities and colleges and going to advertising and direct marketing and to communications industry, and they're just left-brained. You know, in other words, they're not capable of really understanding a new, fresh idea. They're not wired to be able to do it. They're driven by logic. And for me, that actually is really dangerous.
When you're not working, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, I used to have a dog, and I worked my dog. He was a working dog. He was a gun dog, and so he was trained to do that. But then he died. So, and they say you've only got one dog really in your life, and he was my dog. I've gone back to trying to write novels again. So I do that, and I live out in the sticks. So I find it really therapeutic. I have apple trees. So I make chutney. I make my pear chutney this year is pretty good. I make sloe gin. I make sort of stuff like that. I'm Mrs. Beat, really.
Let's move on to a quick fire round.
Oh hey.
FWA or NMA?
What?
I'll take that as your answer. Can Lion or D&AD Pencil?
Oh, I feel a traitor. Can Lion.
Art directors or copywriters?
Art directors.
Apple or Android?
Oh, Apple.
Degree or no degree?
No degree.
Ant or deck?
I thought they were one and the same. They kind of morph in my imagination into one.
Retained work or pitch work?
Retained.
Web or mobile?
Ooh, mobile.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Independent.
Very quick with that answer. Outsourced production or on-site production?
Outsource.
And lastly, twist or stick?
Twist.
Thank you very much.